Okay, it looks like we lighten up. Good night, gentlemen. Good night. Welcome to Fatherhood Talks. You can find us here on YouTube under Fatherhood Talks. Go to find our app to join us, get our information on the band app under Fatherhood Talks. We're here tonight to hopefully empower fathers. Oh, wow. Look at that. Wow. The first time this happened, I must be because I got my Google and everything set up. As soon as I hit this, it sent me a message to tell me that Fatherhood Talks is live right now. So that's good to know that if you and if you at home have liked, shared, hit the notification bell, subscribe, you will be here right now and get your ding that we're about to have another one of our interesting conversations. Fathers from the spectrum. I like to say fathers from the whole spectrum, having conversations about issues that affect all fathers from the spectrum. So, and when I mean spectrum, let me give it a little understanding. When we think about fatherhood works. It's been kind of monolithic in the way people have thought about it. Fathering being only one way, and only having a certain kind of good father, bad father. But we come from a place where we want to look at fatherhood on the spectrum. Every man who has a child fits somewhere on that spectrum, and he has something to add to fatherhood. Something, good, bad, or ugly. He has something to add that helps us as fathers better identify and empower ourselves. So that's what, coming in hot, huh? I feel like y'all say, boy, this guy coming up with all kinds of stuff. He used this come and say, good night, everybody, welcome. Well, no, I'm just thinking, I'm deep into this last couple chapters of this thing I'm working on. And these things are in my mind present. And so so tonight we're going to be doing our talk, conversation. The topic of the night's topic is no right way to do a wrong thing. And and the way we're gonna look at that is we're not gonna make it something. I'm gonna go around and ask the dads as we start the night to talk about the right way they did a wrong thing or the wrong way they did the right thing. Either or, we're going to take that and then we're going to take the conversation to where we need to go. So welcome everybody. I'm Ron Osborne Williams, a father. And I want to introduce you to the rest of the fathers we have here. Go ahead, fathers, introduce yourselves.
How y'all doing? I'm Travis, father of 6, 18 all the way down to 10. I trust me, it's a long, it's kind of hard trying to remember the ages, so you're just gonna keep it at that level.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Larry Jordan, father of 2, grandfather of 1. Glad to be here in 2023.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I am the father to the tribe of 7 young adults, 4 young women. I'm sorry, 3 young women, 4 young men, and 1 granddaughter.
Good evening, everybody. J. Rob Menard, father of 2, 1 daughter, 1 son, young adults.
Good evening, everyone. John Alexander Ramirez, father of 2, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. He's currently screaming for me.
Good evening, everyone. Ray Martin, a father of 3, got a 19-year-old, 16-year-old boys, and a 7-year-old girl.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. This is Thomas Alberry. I'm a father of 2 adults, and I'm a grandfather of 7.
Did that number change, Elder Thomas?
Say what?
Did that number change?
No.
Oh, okay. It seemed like you had less grandchildren. Okay, all right.
2 boys and 5 girls.
Oh, okay.
7.
I want to say my brother here, his name James. And how many kids you got? 6 boys. 6 boys, all boys.
Basketball team.
And 1 daughter on the way.
Mhm.
All right, who else is there? I think
Well, I guess I'll go. My name is Eves, father of 2, 3-year-old daughter and 16-year-old son.
all right, great. Is that everybody? Oh, Fuller, come on, Fuller. Bring up the rear.
Hello, my name's Fuller. 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl.
You probably want to have 3 boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is that I think that's everybody. Okay, so gentlemen, you heard what hold on. Here come a late comer. Let's let this one late comer come. He probably coming straight from paternity court or something like that. We let the late comer come and introduce himself really quick because I know he's coming from important future Supreme Court meetings.
I don't know if you're referring to me, but if you are, I just ran in the house, literally. Good evening, gentlemen. How y'all doing? Good to see y'all faces. I ain't had no Supreme Court ones today, Ron, but something coming up soon. So
okay. I know you got some good things coming, man. All right.
Thank you
And
for
Gene
sharing
dropped
your
that in the
file.
I think Gene just dropped that in the chat for you.
He did, thanks.
All right. So guys, let's look at this. You know, have you when you think of hearing this statement, and we have a picture here, right? A picture that we kind of use as the pin nail of the picture. It shows a arrow going 2 ways. And I, you know, when we make up these topics, I know maybe later on if this comes too popular, we might get some copyright. People come and say, "Oh, he stole our pictures off of YouTube." So right now I don't care because we this I don't care right now because I ain't gonna get that. But dime and a nickel, you make $1 out of it if you want to. But I'm curious of Dad's thoughts about this idea, and have you had this kind of experience, or what does this represent to you when you think about it? How does it represent to you as first as a man, and then maybe as a father? Because that almost, when I think about it, it can almost be one of those double-edged swords, are issues that we face where we want to do something one way, but it may, as a man will do something one way, but as a father, we're going to do it another way, and what have you. I just want to hear from the group what are they thinking about this topic, and how does it fit to them, and how we kind of introduce it to the audience out there tonight so they can get a better understanding.
I can kick it off. And that's a very that's some elderly that's advice from the elders, right? So, and particularly in our culture, because it's not you know, some of us had mimas and nanas or grandparents. Mine wasn't none of that. My grandmother was something different. but this came out of the mouth of another young man who did have a Mima and a Nana. And I heard him say it, and I was like, wow, that's profound. Let me go ahead and store that. So once I heard him say that, I was like, because it made me think, it was thought provoking. No right way. Well, she said, she told him, her advice to him as a grandson was, she was like, baby, there's no right way to do a wrong thing. Now, he never got into the gist, or I just didn't remember what the gist of the discussion was for her to actually impart that advice to him at the time. But I thought it was very powerful but practical advice. Now, to get into how we're conditioned to be a victim of this very topic, and how it was acceptable throughout our history, particularly as our history as men. I'm going to give one example. Is we say as men, like today, we say as men in 2023, that it's not, you should never put your hand on a woman, right? That's 2023. But in 1920, the laws wouldn't pass. It didn't become legal to stop beating women until 1920. So the laws were passed to stop beating women in 1920, but the laws was not actually enforced to stop beating women until 1970. You do the research yourself. You understand? And so here it is, we're in 2023, and we will live and exist like this always existed when the premise was completely the opposite, because they actually had a rule on how you can actually beat your wife. Correct? And so no right way to do a wrong thing. At one point, it was legal to actually beat your wife up until 1920 and didn't get enforced till 1970. So the laws were passed in 1920 and it didn't get enforced until 1970. That's a 50-year gap before they actually start enforcing those laws. A great movie that was an example of that is the movie called The Burning Bed. And so with Farrah Fawcett. And so being that as it may, I like to pick on, choose the most controversial examples to actually show how evolution, it takes some time, but don't always just assume what exists today actually existed yesterday, and that's not true. So this topic of there's no right way to do a wrong thing goes to go to the highest. You got to go to the highest example in the land, which is the law, which shows how, oh, you know what, at this point in time, that was actually the right thing before 1920, and tolerated all the way up to 1970. You understand? And so I don't want to dump that at the feet of men, because men, we just follow the laws. And some men make, culturally and historically, it was a privilege that we actually executed and benefited from. But just to show you that it's not limited to just one thing. Another example of that, I'll give another example after somebody else goes, because I don't want to take up too much of time.
Well, I'll just piggybacking on what Lionel said. Even in today's time, you will have a woman in her defense of herself, right, who may be in a domestic situation, would be in defense of herself. You know, she filed the restraining order, she did everything right, and homeboy comes by the house, and she in fear of being killed because he said he gonna take her life. If he can't have her, nobody will. She reacts and ends up killing him, right? Now, in that scenario, he wasn't necessarily the instigator, but he was in violation of the restraining order. And she ends up going to jail for 5 years for manslaughter or whatever it is, or even longer, depending on the level of extreme that she took out when deciding to kill him, because all the emotion of whatever he had done to her went from her just stabbing him one time to stop him to stabbing him 25 times because she was just thinking of all. So see right there, as a judge, we went from, oh, you were stabbing him because you were defending yourself, to you outright was just destroying this man's body with the amount of times you stabbed him. So your sentence went from a 5-year manslaughter charge to you sitting in 25 years because of the egregious nature of it, which at the end of the day, she is dealing with the emotional and mental abuse she had to endure, and the fact that she was afraid of herself when she went and filed this restraining order, done told y'all 20 times, made 20 complaints that this man done tried to beat her and kill her, and now when she did what she did, you want to lock her up. Perfect example. There's no right way to do the wrong thing. That even in that scenario, with her trying to protect herself, her killing him was the wrong thing, is what the word will say, right? So there's no right, even in what she did, there was no right way there. She was gonna have to suffer some type of injury herself to even get the response that she needed. So, and I use that example because there's many women sitting in prison for that same reason. But had they not,
I would agree
not
with
done
you
that,
so
they
much,
probably would
Johnny.
be dead. Would you
Johnny,
say, Ryan?
the largest majority of women who, especially from based on when I was doing domestic violence, the majority of women who are in prison for killing a man is in relation to domestic violence, are the idea that it was in self-defense. Now, what the funny part that Johnny was talking about that the court does is the court says the system is sometimes funny because the same, like Johnny gave a great example, this lady asked for help, this and that. They never gave her help. The same system that didn't give her help be the same system that prosecute her for murder and saying that she wanted to. She did. And it's a strange system that operates that way, but it's also a thin line because there are, the large, listen, in comparison of murders of partners, women are higher in prison because a lot of men who are domestic abusers do not go to prison. They end up killing themselves because they are that type of abuser. And they have, once they did that, they took everything. They don't have anything to control. So then it's kind of like, it's over. I'm taking that.
And I apologize for going down that rabbit hole, but that's what Lionel went. So
it's a good example, but it's an excellent example, man. It's probably one of the best ones that people can maybe digest a little bit because we know very clearly that there's a bad thing, but it was right, but it was wrong. Those kind of things.
No, but you know what?
I think it allows.
Oh, I'm sorry. Johnny got a great point. I'm gonna tell you why. Because systemically, the system is both races and sexes at the same time. And it's also classes, right? So it's a classism system, it's a racism system, it's a sexism system. And so you can be victimized by any of those schisms at any time, depending on who you are, which is back to Johnny's point. Me, particularly as a Black male or as a Black person, you can also, again, no right way to do a wrong thing, but you can also be a Black person charged with the same crime, with the same points and everything, and get more time than a white person. Because the system really gave you an adjustment, but it didn't really give you real justice. So you had access to an adjustment, but it's not justice. And so until we get full access to justice, we're gonna always get adjustment. This is why you can get two guys, one Black, one white, do the same thing, and then they get different time convictions, which is from the origin of one particular case from like when the inception of this country. I think it was built on these two slaves, or maybe three slaves that escaped. And once they recovered those slaves, one was white, one was Black. I think I can remember those two. And the white man was sentenced to sentenced to indentured servitude, and the Black man, the Black slave, runaway slave, was sentenced to I would say eternity, like for the rest of his life. And so the white man had the opportunity to actually work off his debt and work his way out of slavery as opposed to the Black man. It was indefinite. And so that's when we talk about no right way to do a wrong thing. It's not just in your individual life. You're only going to be as effective or as just as the very culture and country that you exist in. And so if it happens at the top, it's going to happen in your own personal life. And then it's going to trickle down. We're going to do it as fathers. We're going to do it as husbands. And we're going to do it as peers. And so that's the thing I want to open everybody's mind up to see the no right way to do a wrong thing and not think it's just trapped in your culture, trapped in your family, and just trapped in your circumstances. You got to see the different cycles as we're going to talk about as this thing go on.
Well, I want to go ahead and bookend it because I think that you guys get great examples for one end. And just so people have a range. Now, when I think of there's no right way to do the wrong thing, you got a lot, it brings me up for excuses. Like a lot of people making excuses for the things that they do. One of the things, and like one was saying, which I was going to allude to, is like even in relationships, that tit for tat that people like to do. Well, they did this to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it to them so they can see how I felt. Rather than explaining how you felt and hoping that the person can understand or empathize with you, you're gonna go ahead and do it back to them. And you think that's the right thing to do, is to treat them the way they treated me so that they get the pain that I got. Well, that's the wrong way, you know, and that's how you reach that wrongness. And that's how you guys stay in constant turmoil and conflict, because, you know, when you're thinking about the right way to do something, it's more of sometimes stepping up to be the bigger person and allowing that person to see that you're not going to react to what the things that they're doing. And so it will also change the way they deal with you. You know, when you're dealing with when you start doing it you feel like I'm right, so I'm going to treat you badly. You just have, you know, like I said, it goes into starting to like get bumping heads, get in conflict, causing arguments, and eventually belittling everybody, one another. And so I think, I just wanted to bookend with that.
Hey, Eugene, you make a really good point in that, because the idea that people believe that revenge is justice is foolish. The revenge only gives you more of the pain that the person already gave you. Actually, it makes, let me correct how I'm gonna say it, it makes you their witch. It makes you their witch, because the second they did something to you, and then now you're going to change who you are to affect to that, then they have complete control over what happens and how you operate and everything. I mean, so the great part of what you described is, hey, sometimes you have to fight evil with love. Yeah. Because sometimes evil people really only want love. And I'm gonna squeeze that in there. And many of us, let me be more personable. Relationships that didn't work for me and they hated me because I didn't love them. I hate it. And that's what they wanted from me as a man. So it's something to think about, you know, that you sometimes, and now as I think about it being mature in other ways, I would handle it a completely different way. I wouldn't cut them off. I would just be able to show how to be a bigger person and say that I'm the bigger person in this situation because I've been given the rights as a man to be better, to do better, not to say, oh, I'm gonna show her.
But Ron, the correct terminology is Mitch.
You know what I was I'm sorry.
Okay, good, thank you. I was looking for, listen, Mitch, right? The Mitch.
Thank you, Lionel. Thank you very much. Because I was like, what? Yeah, which? What do you think?
Yeah, that's all I can think about.
You know, I kind of looked at this from a little bit of a different perspective, in terms of the atrocities that men have perpetuated on society have almost been limitless throughout history. And what I mean by that, the first thing I thought about, of course, was slavery, like Lionel mentioned earlier. I mean, there is nothing or never was anything good about slavery as opposed to indentured servitude. You know, owning another man has never been right, and it will never be right. You know, so for someone to me, it's a power and control kind of situation. And because I'm in power and I want control of a situation, I'm going to enact something, whether it's right or wrong. And what also came to me was in the Bible when the woman got caught in adultery, and they brought out the stone her to death. And first thing that kind of came to my mind, well, first of all, they both you can't commit adultery by yourself. You know, where's the man? You know, but the law said that we need to stone her to death. And basically what Jesus said, well, two wrongs don't make a right, you know, because because she did something wrong, now I'm gonna do something wrong and stone her to death, you know. And so because of that, it just taught me that a lot of these things are just have been perpetuated by males. Not saying that females didn't have their place in the way that they did things, but because of men's power and control over the situation, and many times they cause this to happen in a lot of cases.
Without a doubt. And this phrase, I think, oftentimes also relates to when people, I guess, think they have a right reason for doing the wrong thing. So they want to be able to justify, like, this is the reason why I went and robbed the bank because I had to feed, or rob the store because I had to feed my baby. So there is no right way to do the wrong thing. I know you want to go feed your child, we got that, but you don't go in the store to shoplift. Okay,
Hey,
so in that scenario, should you be arrested? Should you be taken to jail? Is it fair? Should they give you a break? Again, we can sit there and use that topic and say, we understand the right thing you wanted to do, but there is no, as it says, there's no right way to do that because it's wrong at the end of the day. However, your understanding was of what it is you were trying to accomplish, what the way you went about doing it was wrong. So it had an impact on you and your family beyond just the food, that now you're not even there to go look for a job, or you're not even there to be available for them as a parent because you just got locked up for trying to, quote unquote, find a way to feed them.
Let me give you a perfect example of this. This is probably the most popular social media thing going on right now. Probably by tomorrow end up. And I know personally because I was on a meeting last night till about 2 o'clock in the morning about this particular topic. The Ed Reed football coach schools issue and situation. And I think it's just, it's amazing how we have these topics, and these topics really affect things that's really happening, because this is listen, this stuff Ed Reed said was true. Absolutely. That some of the stuff that he said about what's going on that he has noticed when he was there is true. But there is a right way to do everything. There's a means to do things. There's a means to, like, who you share that with. Sometimes going on social media is a hype way to do it, and it's going to get people are paying attention. But I think the people that you really want to affect will be turned off because they'll say, well, why didn't you come and talk to me? And again, I don't know the whole scenario, but I think that this situation that we have right now, popular media, is one of those examples, because a large majority of people saying he said he did the right thing. He said what he was saying was the truth, this and that, but people are concerned about the way the message came, how he
conveyed.
Yeah, well, yeah, how it conveyed and what have you.
Ron, to your point, I'm like, that can also be vice versa, because why should he have to negotiate the truth for anybody? If it's true, it's true. And then guess what? The means for him, the means of correction should not just be on his end, it should be on their end to correct whatever he's saying that's true. And I think too often that we let the powers that be, we never correct from the top. And so this is why you often see decision makers, and this is a trend. You can see it around the world, even in this country. You can see, particularly people when they get wealthy, don't want to offer an apology. A good example of that was Gayle King. I mean, she was blatantly wrong when she did that. They would say, well, I'm like, no, there was nothing in that situation of that man and that man's child dying tragically prompt or gave you the right, you understand, to interject that question or that comment or whatever you said into that situation. You understand? But you know what? And she never offered an apology. And that's what I think the guy was saying, like, listen, man, you guys don't speak, and I love this historically. If you don't speak truth to power, I just never thought I'd have to see it in our own within our culture internally. And sometimes we have to speak truth to power internally. You really believe that's going to change if what he's talked about existed for 10 or more years? Then you're going to have to go another way, because you cannot go the same way, the same protocol, and expect change. You understand? Remember saying that's the definition of insanity. And so people have been going the correct protocols and saying things the appropriate way. And guess what happened? No change happened. So you're going to have to try something different when it comes to conveying that message to definitely change that particular movement or methodology that's going on in that situation. And so, no, I'm like, that's why this goes both ways. because the only right way really is Jesus Christ. Everybody else in the Bible says this, everybody else, man righteousness is filthy rags. And so all of this is up for negotiation anyway. And this is why we're always back and forward in that odd until we can get to some type of medium when it comes to righteousness within mankind and our relationships.
Travis got his hand up. Travis? Travis, you mean to hit that? Okay, I guess not.
Right.
I just wanted to say one thing real quick. I think a lot of times people's expectations were that they would follow the Deion Sanders model. That is, it probably the same kind of situation existed in terms of the facilities and that type of thing when Deion Sanders arrived. But what he did was he came out of pocket and cleaned up the situation, you know, without revealing it publicly and that. And I think that was people's expectation. You know, it's like, no, you don't say that. You just clean it up. You got the money, you know, clean it up. If it's dirty, clean it up, you know. But that wasn't a reason.
I think he was going to do that. I don't think that. I think what happened is, and when I look at this and I put it back into this conversation, because you know one thing Ari says a lot, and every time I hear him, he talk about being a father and giving up the time he gave up for his son to be missing stuff for his son for the last 3 weeks, to be doing this stuff for the kids at the school. And I think the issue is probably that the intentions wasn't good on the other side. That's what I feel. I think it was an opportunity to make it a Deion thing, right? But they didn't, what do you say that people don't do? They didn't check out who they was going to get. You know what I'm saying? They said, oh, they looked at a Hall of Famer. They looked at, oh, he gonna do the same thing Deion did. And he probably would have did it, but he would have did it his way. His way is not Deion. Deion didn't say very much when he came to the school. He came to the school and it was under the, you know, and again, it's a situation in context. Deion showed up to the school during COVID. So it was a different whole scenario of what he had to do and what he had to get prepared. In this case, people are comparing the two situations when they're very different. Only thing similar is you got two Hall of Famers going to HBCUs. That's it. But I am going to say exactly what Lionel was saying. Some of the responsibility was on the other side, because I feel the other side used his celebrity to bring their level. They loved all the publicity they got prior to when he he was saying some things wasn't coming through on his end, and the other publicity, they didn't like that. They loved all the other publicity, but they ain't like the later publicity. But and that's like I say, you can't have the warmth without the fire. You listen. The fire, you ain't having warmth without the fire. So don't say, oh, I want to get warm, but you might get burnt. So just know you can't have warmth without the fire. So.
I like that. You can't have warmth without the fire. And I think that's the whole thing about understanding when we talk about doing the right thing the wrong way. And we could always, you know, and again, this, when I read about this particular topic, I just saw the term excuses as Gene said earlier. It is an excuse. Whatever it is that you wanted or the reason why you did what you did, it's technically an excuse to allow you to justify your wrong behavior. Whether or not you may have thought it was positive. People will say disciplining when you spank your child, because you know back in the day, spank wouldn't be the right term that our parents used when they disciplined us, especially if you grew up in the South or the Caribbean. They didn't understand what the term spank was. There was no such thing as timeout, go to the corner. The level of beatings we got would equate to what they call it today, abuse. That's what it would be equated to. But their belief was that, as the word says, you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Well, I didn't need that much rod. I could have took one less rod or two less rod. I could have used a skinnier rod. It could have been a smaller rod. It didn't matter. I would have still got it. But at the end of the day, that was their mindset. You spin it around, you spoil a child. Where today we have a different concept in this country and in the world as a whole. So I bring that up to say, was the way they did it wrong? Using that phrase, using that topic of discipline in the manner that the corporal discipline that we had as kids. They were trying to do as they said, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. And their thing was, let me guide them, bring them up in the right way, show them discipline. But was the way they were doing it the wrong way? Are you guys getting where I'm coming from with that question?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I think with that example, Gaspar, it's kind of like a time thing. Back then, that was the right way, because even schools were allowing it to happen in the schools. So back then, the school, the frame mind of thought was, this is the right way to handle it.
Gotcha.
As time progressed, it switched, and schools stopped allowing it. The laws started to change. Because if you remember, going back in history, there was no such thing as child abuse. Children didn't have rights. Children didn't have laws. They actually used laws that were governed for animals for children.
Hey.
And so that's what they used as their guideline. And so as time went on, that's where they had the children. That's when they started giving children more rights. Now, the argument that you would have is, where is it where children have too many rights, where parenting suffers? And so that's where the guideline has to be drawn, because there's the argument of too much state intervention, right? Which they're trying to do the right thing, but the right thing of the state intervening, overstepping, becomes wrong, because you're not allowing parents to do what they have to do, yet you're punishing the parents because the kids are not following direction.
Gotcha.
And to respond to that real quick. Nurse has a license, and you guys probably know this. A nurse has a license, and that license has to be protected. There is certain rules in maintaining that license. I guess for most licenses, for most people, her daughter is leaving the house. She grabs the daughter. They get into her stuff. Police is called, and she loses her license.
And
so is she doing the right thing? And the law intervenes and says, guess what? You're going to lose your license. I stopped her from going out in the street where she wanted to go out in the street. Obviously, there might have been a shuffle, if you want to use that for a better term. And here she is facing a judge. I have to explain, and she lost her license. Because remember, you're a caregiver and you're a nurse. There is certain protocols.
She got the wrong attorney. I'm gonna leave that alone.
I want to push.
I want to talk about that. Go, you go ahead. My bad. I'm sorry, but trust me, I have a lot to say. I'm just letting y'all go so y'all call on me. I'm ready.
So the question, Johnny, when kind of going back to everybody was said from the beginning, to me it sounds like we live a life a contradiction, right? Because depending on which stage of progression or elevation of consciousness we're at, some things are accepted, other things are not accepted, right? And being in this state of the world where I was raised by a straight ass whooping, el huete, right? It wasn't about the rod, it was whatever was that's what you were getting hit with.
Exactly.
and now, this is funny, I was telling my son the other day that, my dad hit me, I didn't block. And my son was like, Daddy, you should have blocked. And I'm like, there wasn't an option to block. You get hit if you blocked, right? Like, what you do? Put your hand up. And I think now, I adopted the methodology of not putting my hands on my children about 4 years ago. And I realized that it's about cooperation, connection, being able to connect with your child. And I don't think our parents, not that they didn't know how, I don't think they were taught to connect. They were only taught to direct, to discipline, to get you to fall in line because we gotta go, right? And you're not cooperating. And I think that's where there's just missing links in trying to figure this all out. It's confusing because the right or wrong is perspective, right? There's a Freeway song that says, if my kids are hungry, I'll snatch the dishes out your kitchen, right? Like I'm not a person that will rob you, but for your own, you will do whatever you got to do, right? And that's just kind of, we just live a constant contradiction. And perspective on when is right and when it's wrong is really up to you. I don't.
Castro, in prison have rules, right? Prison have rules. Prison have rules. And you break the law, you go into prison and you follow the rules, and their rules are not like your rules.
Yeah.
Their rules is a bit different, right? They take away your name. You have to walk along the line. You have to turn the light off at a certain time. So you're right. It's funny how laws and rules and it's really shady. It's a shady area when you think about it.
You know
Yeah,
what?
but
I'm
even
proud.
within that subsystem, Rohan, there's a rule that governs within it has its own culture, so to speak.
Right.
And there's even that set of rules that you have to follow that supersedes it supersedes the jailhouse rules. You know what I'm saying? Like the actual man's rules, and you have those jailhouse rules that you have to follow, and that culture that takes place. So go ahead, Lightborn.
No. Back to Castro's point. There's a difference because we got to understand there's a difference between being moral and being charitable, right? Being moral and being charitable. You know what's the difference between being moral and being charitable? Being moral is when you apply all of your good nature to you and yours. Being charitable is when you apply all your good natures to others, right? And so when we're saying, and when you guys started out to push back on the excuse thing, I'm like, okay, Harriet Tubman, good example. Let's use her as exhibit A. She broke all the rules, broke the laws. Was that an excuse? Or was it because of an experience? And so we can't say that people are doing things because of an excuse, and maybe directly and mainly because of their experience. And so I never want to disenfranchise people off as they're using an excuse when the people who actually was doing the wrong and used the laws to do wrong, right? And we would never call them like, oh, they're using laws to do wrong as an excuse. You understand? If that's where if we're gonna lay the excuse at somebody's feet, lay it there. Lay it there for the people who use right to do wrong. But I don't want to lay it at the feet who got done wrong by the right. You understand? And I think that's the confidence. You know, we're just conditioned to be cultural cowards in this country. And this is why we have the situation. And so I don't want to have to put our kid in a jail situation, talk about no rules. I'm like, no. If you deem in our relationship to treat me less than a human being, you understand? Then forget the rules, because now I got to go on my human rights. You understand? Your rules are not going to supersede my human rights. And if your rules don't align with my human rights, or your rules violate my human rights, I'm within my rights to kill you. You understand? And so never think I'm that broken that I don't know the difference. And you would, guess what? You would use those instinctive rights. I don't care. If somebody came in right now and the Klan came in and tried to drag your children and your wife out right now, trust me. You understand? Badge or no badge. You're not coming to my house dragging my children out. You can drag me out, but you're not dragging my children, my wife out. So that's why I'm like, we got to be very careful with this particular narrative, and we got to apply it justly. Well, if it's good for the goose, it got to be good for the gander. I always heard that saying, never knew what the hell it meant, but it sounds good right now.
No, I know what it means.
Yeah, but Lightborn, I have to say that no one on here would probably disagree, and no one listening would disagree with me if I say Harriet Tubman was doing the right thing for the right reason. It's the slave owners who thought they were doing the right thing and for the wrong reason. You see what I'm saying? But she was doing the right thing for the right reason. So I don't think anyone's going to argue that point. She wasn't making an excuse. You have to remember that what it came. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that, and now to your point, she broke the law. Now you understand? She had to break the law to do it. And that's when I'm getting at. So I'm like, yes, sometimes, and because we were saying we can't justify a man breaking the law because if he's hungry, he went in and he stole something, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? And so here it is added to Harriet Tubman, who did the exact same thing. You understand? She wanted to be free, so she had to break the law to actually be free and get to a space in a geographic area so she can be free, but she had to break the law to get, and see where the oxymoron go at? On this side of the situation, I got to break the law just to get to another set of laws so that will validate my humanity. And so that's where this conversation, there's no real wrong and right way in this conversation. We have to actually find our way to it. But I hope we can get to Travis, because Travis said he got a lot, and I can't wait.
Well, one time, before we get to Travis, I have to say that I think that when we look at, and this could be subjective, but when we do look at it, I think as we talk about this, we're using not isolated, but specific incidences. So I'm not going to say like Harriet Tubman, I wouldn't say she was wrong. And she was doing the right thing for the right reason. Because again, like you said, part of the population disagreed with it, part of the population agreed with it. And so I think she did the right thing for the right reason. But now someone who blatantly comes and says, you know what, I knew it was, because a lot of times you do stuff and you know it's wrong, you know you're gonna get in trouble, but you do it anyway. And then you try to justify why you did it when you had alternate solutions to get you to where you were. And that's what I mean by excuses. You know what I'm saying? Like you had other options, but you just decided to take the one that was the bad path.
But see, that's it. And there are always choices, but
right.
you're assuming they were alternate in that person's mindset. Let me phrase it, in that person's mindset. Because every one of us may believe that the person should have alternate choices. Let me show you what you could have done instead of going to rob the store. But that person in their world and whatever was happening to them, around them, and with them felt that the only option they had was this choice. And sometimes we get to that point mentally and emotionally, even in our relationship with our children, that we feel this is the only choice we have. Whether they're acting out in such an aggressive way towards us or towards their family, or they're not listening. So we feel this is the only option. We gotta send you here. We gotta, you got parents who literally will call the cops on their kids because they feel they have no other choice. When there's always other options, and it's not till something sadly happens between the interaction with the police and their children or their family that they said, I did the wrong thing. I should have never called the police. So again, I get what you're saying, Gene, but a lot of times it's what the person is thinking in that moment based upon what's happening to them as to whether or not they believe they had alternate options. And even though you and I in our our better situation may have those, because we are grown, we've educated ourselves, we've been exposed to things and experienced things. So we're thinking a choice completely different than someone like Angel, who's 18, 19, with a baby, who hasn't lived, who hasn't really experienced the world yet, who may think, oh, I don't have any other choice. So he makes this choice when it comes to his children, when we as older, more experienced men have the ability to see other options to accomplish the same thing Angel didn't see. So I think that's where that right and wrong thing comes in, based upon our experience and the options that our life allows us to have. Brother Travis, if you want to jump in now, we're willing to hear all you got to say. Mr. Jones, he probably dealing with one of the many kids he got over there.
Oh, sorry. I thought I pressed the right button.
Go ahead, Travis.
So I was listening, but then I was in and out because my son had track practice. But I was hearing what you were saying. And when Ron put this up and I saw this, it said there is no right way to do wrong things. I said like this, and I'm gonna say it till I'm blue in the face, because trust me, I've been saying it, that we have to all realize that these right things in America was not put.
Press the wrong button, Travis.
Yeah, you went back on mute.
I went back. Oh shoot! Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
You're good now.
Yeah.
I was saying, like, you know what I'm saying, these laws and the right thing in America that we all, you know, lived and grew up on was not meant for us. Cause like, I don't know if it was Brother Lightborn or you, Brother Jay, but one of y'all said that they use rules for animals to put in place for these for our kids, at, you know what I'm saying, when they got to a point to when whooping your child became a problem. People was overdoing it. People was doing this and everything else. As I see it and as I hear it, and trust me, y'all was all y'all had, all of y'all said things that I wanted to say, and y'all said it perfectly. Like Harriet Tubman, she was breaking the law, but she was trying to do it for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes down to it, we have to understand that. I mean, you have to understand, like, these laws wasn't put here for us minorities. You know what I'm saying? As we use, but when we use them, then you notice how they flip them. Just like I'm gonna say, like let the Me Too movement. I'm gonna do it recently because that's the recent I can think of at the moment. The Me Too movement, the whole movement of, you know,
Be careful now,
Black
Travis.
Lives.
It's being recorded. Be careful.
Right.
It's being
That's right.
recorded.
Yeah.
Oh, you right. You're right. I'm sorry. The point.
I mess with you. Talk, my brother. Talk. I mess with you. Go ahead.
But you know what I'm saying? These movements and everything, we do them, and then we think we get results because they give us they give us one, like Trayvon Martin, the hood situation, what they did in that situation. You know what I'm saying? I forgot the other guy. Oh, there's so many people. I forgot the other guy, the cop who was sent on the man neck.
Yeah.
You know,
Floyd.
Yeah, thank you, Floyd. We once we get to a certain level to when we combine as a nation, as a united nation, they step back. Okay, I see. I'm gonna give you this. The guy who was on Floyd neck, I think he got time. Am I right or wrong?
Right.
I think he was one of them. Huh?
You're right.
He got time. But still, look what's going on. People still getting, minorities still getting shot at, minorities still getting this, then that, you know what I'm saying? And everything else. We still got people out there still being missing. You know? But everybody think that, well, you know, they heard I cried, they heard what he said, everything else and stuff like that. I'm a person that believes that I open my eyes to the fact of the matter that if they feed us what they feed us what they want to feed us until we're happy, and then they still just call it something else. You know what I'm saying? And still flip it around. I hope y'all understand where I'm coming from. Like I said, y'all said everything. Y'all have. But I feel like this there's no right way to do the wrong thing. I feel like it should be like there's no right way to be right. Because in this government, in this day, and in this age, regardless of how much we did come up to, we still as brothers, fathers, as men, minority, everything, we still fighting for the same thing. It's like a roundabout circle. And that's how I feel when it comes to these laws, when it comes to these, you know what I'm saying, these state laws, these government laws, all these laws that says that what you have to do, what you have to say, how you have to be, how you got to act, how you got to this, that is the right thing. But like you said, shoot, Harriet Tubman was trying to free people, trying to do a civic, how we call a civic service or something like that to help people. But then we wasn't seen as people back then. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I just stand on that. I feel like we have to look at it for what it really is. And you know what I'm saying? Stop trying to, not gonna say stop, but you know, try not to interpret it what it is. Look at it for what it is, because that's how I see it. Now, if I'm wrong, like I say, brothers, please help me understand, because from what I see, no matter how much we protest, no matter how much we do X, Y, and Z, if we all don't stay together and stand firm, it's always the government always gonna say, well, he was in the wrong because he was wearing a hoodie. Or he was in the wrong because, you know what I'm saying, he accidentally stepped in the neighbor's yard and that was called trespassing. All he did was turn around. You get what I'm saying? I hope y'all understand.
Travis, I'm gonna put a real quick one. I'm gonna do the Reader's Digest version of what you just said. I'm a numbers guy. You mentioned the word fight, which is a common word that is used. I hear it on the TV. It seems to be a norm here. We need, when you talk about laws, to change those laws, we need to unite. We need to unite like a chain. Maybe I should say, maybe I can say it's a group of people need to do that. Once we unite, we need to open supermarkets as is Black owned. We need to have Black owned businesses. When you have money, and I know this is not going to go right, but when you have money, you have power. And many of us, as you saw with the gentleman who just stepped in his neck, George Floyd, many of them made comments, they need to go find a job. As long as people see you as to find a job, that means you're working for someone to get by. The day we start uniting, open our own business, whenever you get your salary, most of our salaries go straight back to another group of people. You need your salary to go with your group of people at least 16 times. Then someone will listen to you. Then they'll come to your door and ask you for your business. That is how you make those changes, because other groups have done it and they're doing it as we speak. So Travis, remember, I'm going to put it this way. I'm a divorcee. I get calls every day for the home that I live in. Do you know why I get calls every day for the home that I live in, Travis? I'm going to keep it real. I'm a janitor. And the person who has my record at the courthouse, it is public. So they say, guess what? He's poor. He ain't got no money. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to call him every day until he decides to sell that house. And remember, Travis, if they take the house away from me, what do they take away from me, Travis? They take away the wealth that I will leave for my daughters. They take away the roof over my head. They put me in a situation where, I go buy a Chris ride. You have to understand the numbers, Travis. The day you understand the numbers, you will see how the system is run. That is my response, and I hope that helped you, and you can teach your children that as you go forward.
Now, by you saying that, I get what you're saying. You saying that. And you're saying that it's the right way to go about it, right? But then if I go up, like, okay, I get what you're saying, but like, I'm gonna use a real scenario. My situation when I got custody, shared time. I'm saying the wrong thing. Shared time with my daughter. And when moms was fighting tooth and nail and how they was, and I'm literally, and trust me, I know we live and I don't really care who care, but when I see the system, when I see that judge sit here and just keep granting her extensions or this or that and this or that, I come to realize that these rules and regulations and laws are meant to that I thought was meant to help me. It was hurting me because I was getting upset. I was getting mad because I went through the right proper channels, and I still had to jump through hoops. I went through the right, not her now, not her. And I'm at now, I can't now, I say not her because when I came in that courtroom, the judge say, well, sir, you have to X, Y, Z, this, that. They told the mom, like, well, ma'am, stop. Just what she really said was stop. Stop trying to have your, I don't really want to say it because it made me mad because I felt like it was
So,
like a
Travis, let me go there. We're here. Are you a feelings person? Because if you're yes, okay, let me ask again. Are you a feelings person? Because you said you got angry, right? Yes? You got
when the judge gave me all the stuff, I had to jump through the hoops, and then they just gave her a slap on the wrist.
Right.
I was kind of angry. Yeah.
So I don't know if you study a judge. A judge puts aside his or her feelings and apply the law. Sometimes some judges will apply feelings, but keep that in mind. And I heard a gentleman who said that's not true, but that's generally what most judges do. And that is why sometimes they prefer doing a jury trial versus a bench trial, because then the judge have to make a decision versus the jury makes a decision and he doesn't have to do that. But I heard a gentleman who said that, please speak. I don't want to say anything.
You must have had Franklin A, Travis. You must have had Franklin A.
that was me, Rohan. Listen, no, I do agree with you. They're supposed to put aside their personal feelings, but because they're individuals just like you and I, they have their bad days as well. So they may come in there with whatever may have happened to them later that, early that morning or the night before. And unfortunately, you're just a person that they take it out on. It just happens to be that way, which is why they always tell people with certain types of crimes in criminal court that is always, they make it mandatory that you pick a jury instead of going before the judge, because that judge may have a bad day. But that's why police officers often want judicial court hearing. They don't want a trial by a jury. They want a judge to be the ruling, because they believe the judge will just follow the law and not allow their emotion to dictate their outcome. So that's why if you see most cases where a police officer is being tried, 9 out of 10 times it's just a judge. There's no jury there. And that's a tactical move on their part.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I'm gonna add on to that. Because what I was saying, like when I was hearing y'all, when y'all was saying about the children, and when it was back then a common thing to discipline your child by spanking them and everything else, to now, even if you grab your child the wrong way, somebody see that, hey buddy, you're going to jail, child endangerment, locked up. But you sitting here, you just trying to discipline your child, knowing doggone well that you know doggone well that you don't hurt your child, but they don't see that. They the outside looking in. Again, that's what I said that's what I said. Like who said it? Like when people started to abuse it, is when they started to put laws on it. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
And the drunken mama come home, beats the kid, or the drunken dad, or whatever they own, or however angry they get, or whatever, however the situation is. But to people like us, who, you know what I'm saying, we knew how we was back then, but when the teacher said, I'm gonna call mama, who quick straight up? You did. Straight right up. Answers all the questions. Made sure you even raise your hand because you want to make sure you did a good job. So just in case she do call mom, you know what I'm saying? We learn and we use that. And we know we're not no over abusive parents. We know we're not no this, that, but see, again, the law is put there to hinder us, because when it comes to a child, hold on, I'm gonna break that down. When it comes to a child, they rather they when that child act up and do something crazy and do all this stuff here, whatever, even go as crazy as school stuff and all that stuff there. I ain't gonna say it out loud, you know what I'm talking about.
Correct.
But they want to lock the kid up. They want to put drugs on the kid. They want to see him, talk to him, have him understand what's going on with that child. And all that child just need a good butt whooping, because your child is not this crazed
person that they label you as or to label them as.
Well,
You know what I'm
I'll jump
saying?
in. I'll jump in, Travis, and just say I do agree with you that historically this country made laws that weren't for the benefit of people of color. And as time went on and we began to have some level of influence in the legislatures throughout our states and the governments and throughout our country, we started to make some changes. And some laws do benefit us as a whole. Now, the one about children and being disciplined, there's a good and a bad about that, because as you stated and Gene stated, there was a point where, unfortunately, corporal punishment got abused. And there was a reason why they needed to now be cracking down on parents abusing their children. But there are sometimes, unfortunately, where there's a parent just simply trying to discipline and the law is used against them because somebody takes it fully to the extent of the black and white that's written down and don't look at the overall situation that's happening in that child's life. So I do agree with you that historically the laws have been used against us. But we're in a different time now. And much like in this time, to some degree, I think we look at the law to see how is it impacting us negatively and what way can we overcome it without necessarily going against it. And if there's no way that we can overcome it without going against it, that's when you start to see people protesting, coming together, much like what happened to George Floyd. And many people will say, well, that was just taken out of context in reference to people wanting change. And I was like, well, that's exactly what you do. You protest. And we went from some officers who historically would have gotten off with maybe a slap in the wrist to them getting some lengthy jail time. And several other cases that we saw of white Americans killing Black people where historically, again, that situation that happened in Georgia where the young man is jogging through the neighborhood and these two white dudes pull up on him with their gun talking about you trying to rob the place and shoot him and kill him. Historically, again, they would have gotten off. But thank God for video, and then morons videotaping themselves, they end up getting life sentences where historically, again, that hasn't been the thing. So I do hear what you're saying, Travis, but I think times are changing. We're allowing technology to play its role in helping us as people of color and when we're dealing with and encounters with the justice system. And we're getting smarter. We just got our third Black governor ever elected in the United States of America up in the state of Maryland, just recently was elected. Do you think he's gonna bring changes to the people of the state of Maryland? I'm hoping so. Much like many of us hoped Obama would have made a difference to the majority of Black people in this country. Even though he may not have made an immediate, tangible impact in our lives, I think Obama's presidency made an emotional and mental impact on the lives of our children in the future. And people may not understand what I just said.
I agree with that, 100%.
I just want to jump in for a second.
Yeah, please do, LJ.
I agree with you up to a point, but I think we'd be sadly mistaken, like you said, to think that the laws, rules, and regulations are made to our favor. And basically, I lived through this, and just like Jay said earlier, he was talking about discipline in the schools. If you live back in that time, you would have found out that the reason that they changed the law to stop beating kids in school was because it was right along with integration. So what that had to do with, I'm not gonna let a Black man beat my white kid. Okay, that's what was happening. And that's the reason that they made that law. It's like, no, you won't be beating mine. Also for the same reason that if you saw when George Floyd got killed, the majority of people were white that were protesting. And isn't it interesting that all of a sudden a law came down and say, you can't use live rounds anymore, you gotta use rubber bullets. Because white folks say, you won't be killing my kid. Don't think you're gonna be killing mine. My third example is that January 6th. Can you imagine if Black Lives Matter would have ran through the Capitol like that? That would have been a bloodbath.
Yes, it
would have. 100%.
They would have been shooting, Charlottesville, Okay, one lady got killed because somebody ran over with a car. Okay, it's interesting that when Black people are involved, all bets off. Just kill as many as you can get away with it. You know, but the rules change. The rules change according to the circumstance. And it's never that I've seen in our favor. We can use them. Now, there have been some laws that, like you said, that we use that's supposed to apply to everyone, you know, but for the most part, they're going to get you if they can.
And that's LJ's experience because of generations as well. Because LJ went through a different time than I did. In fact, I didn't even think about that, what you said about the reason why they stopped corporal punishment in the schools was because of the period of integration. I just thought it because them teachers was busting kids over to the white meat and nobody could do nothing about it. That's what I thought it was. But you brought up a point that I didn't know about. But yeah, again, LJ's perspective from a generational difference to somebody who may be, you know, my experience working now in the legal system and how it can be used. Do I still see it used against us? Oh, without a doubt. But if you have, that's why it's necessary to have us in there, part of what we are, from economic, financially, to the justice system, to the medical field. It's why it's necessary for us to teach our children to get involved in these particular fields so that we can be available for our people. Because unfortunately, the world still doesn't work for us. And we got to find ways to now use the law today with technology, with our education, with more and more of us being educated globally and connecting to different people globally. We got to learn how to be able to do that for our children so that they can be involved in fields to help us as a group of people. And I stop.
I want to correct something because I was on that particular bandwagon too, as it pertained to Obama not doing anything for Black people. I was on that bandwagon too. I'm going to correct myself, and I'm going to correct that statement or that particular narrative about that, because I found out after I, experienced some things, I found out that wasn't true in his work. It wasn't the fact that Obama didn't do anything for Black people. Obama had to undo a lot of things for Black people. And then once I got to that, I'm like, okay, so once I got that revelation that he had to undo 8 years to undo a lot of things for Black people, that's when I started to see the accomplishment. I'm like, you know what? I forgot he sued all them banks and they had to pay back the all those predatory lending they were doing for the market crash, and then different things and all kind of civil disenfranchisement. So he had to do undoing a lot of civil disenfranchisement that was going on. That you want to hear the truth? That we knew absolutely nothing about in our daily working lives. And so once I came to that conclusion, and to his defense, because I was on that bandwagon, to his defense, he shouldn't have to narrate or defend rather the work he did, because we should have noticed it. And I'm gonna apologize right now for not noticing. It took me a little while, because at the end of the day, I still try to be a just person to say, okay, is what I'm saying correct, or is what I'm saying about this particular man character and his work just? And I had to find out, like, oh my God, that's right. That man undid a lot of things for us, because I actually benefited from one of them. That also, I got caught up in this car deal and remembering how he had to sue the banks and how they were predatory lending, particularly against Black people. I was able to use that to pull out of that particular deal that you normally couldn't pull out. And so when I benefited from that, that actually changed my narrative. I'm like, wow, it's in the fact that he didn't do anything for Black people. He had to undo a lot of things for Black people. And a lot of times, particularly as a people, we don't really see the value in undoing some things before you can actually do something for Black people. And so and I didn't see the long-term strategy, almost like the civil rights movement. So a lot of people, the civil rights movement looks soft. You understand? But they had to actually undo a lot of things in order to actually do something. And so it's we have to actually get to zero before we can get above it. And that's what happened in his particular presidency. So I have to correct that on my end when it comes to that particular jumping on that bandwagon, that narrative. But as it pertains to what Travis was talking about, when it comes to the discipline and Black people at the particular time, why we beat our children at that particular time, and some people and some white people actually said it may came from the elements of slavery, of how slaves used to beat the just beat the adults, and the adults took that discipline and then carried it over to their children. That could be a factor. But I think as a parent, and then looking at my parents, and particularly me being a Black male, I see right between instinct and intelligence, there's intervention. And so I think what we judge our parent at is from our intelligence and them raising them on their instinct and what type of intervention we would have used if we were them, but we were not living in that particular time. And so if we say that the laws was unjust, then their only instinctive intervention was to beat our ass, excuse my language. You understand? Because they had to get to a quicker result and a quicker outcome before you took that behavior and that disobedience publicly that may have gotten you killed.
Right.
That's the reality. And so I can't sit here and say that our parents didn't have a level of intelligence or they had a certain level of ignorance to apply the intervention that made us presidents, doctors, lawyers, etc. You understand? That worked. And so we're gonna have evidence-based programs. I'm like, we gotta have some evidence-based discipline because it kept a lot of us out of the jailhouse and sure enough out of the graveyard. And so we're gonna be evidence-based driven. Maybe we need to, again, undo the injustice that we're trying to put on our parents, but discipline us the way they had to, as opposed to the way the luxury we have, the way we want to right now. We have a lot of luxuries now, but back then they didn't. So that bridged the gap between the intervention and the discipline that was bestowed upon our behind.
Too much freedom is not good. The discipline is needed.
And like just to piggyback off what Lightbone was saying, that's the thing. Like I said earlier, is what they had at their hand and what was acceptable at the time was what's acceptable now. And even now, you know, corporal punishment is acceptable. The difference is they don't want you picking up sticks, shoes, belts to kill these kids. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times what it is you can still spank, but there's a certain way to spank a child that's acceptable. Once you get to the point, just think about it. When we were kids, our parents spanked us to the point where we got a bruise or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It really didn't do anything different. You see what I'm saying? If they were to not bruise us to the point of bruising, we still would have got the point with a regular spanking. You see what I'm saying? And so that's all that it is now. Is it's taking away the objects that were used to hit the child and just say, hey, spank them. You know, it's an open hand on the bottom. You know, but still, you'll get your point across. And like Lightbone was saying, nowadays you have to have that intervention, right? Because you actually have to have the prevention. And I think we're all smart enough now to understand that there's a prevention method of communication before you need the intervention method of talking to the cops on behalf of what your child is doing. So it's really, you know, there's really more to it, and it's a little bit more complex than just saying, you know, they don't let me spank. Because you have some kids who got beat every single day of their life, and it taught them nothing but how to be savvier to avoid the spankings and be more slick. You see what I'm saying? But then you had some kids you hit one time, and you never had to hit them again. So so it's a matter of understanding your kids and understanding how to deal with them, and not so much as looking at things being taken away, but understanding how can you, like Lionel would say, finesse the situation in order for you to achieve the same outcome as if you would using different methods.
Like Castro said earlier, it's about connection, not direction.
Correct.
You know,
Well said, Castro. Well said.
With that being said, Brother Ron, you've been real quiet today. You're just letting everybody else run the show.
No, again, listen, we had a lot of people on here today, and sometimes we have a lot of people. Y'all don't need to hear my voice because I'm doing the background. We got enough experts on here. We got more than enough. Tell them Lightborn when it's only, you know, Lightborn and when it's Lightborn and we seem like people hear our voice too much. And that's another important part of this, that if we gotta be three of us, we can do it. But when we had right now, we got like you know, we got basically 13 people here. So I want to make sure that they get that spectrum of the fathers that's here, you know. And so, I mean, I know I can, you know, I can pull a rabbit out there. I'm a magician, so I pull a rabbit out the hat. I mean, as we say that, and we look at our time frame, let me go around to those other fathers that are here who haven't really said anything, and ask them, do they have anything they want to share tonight, you know, about what we have talked about in this instance. I know we probably lost some of them.
No, they're here. They're there.
I'm just seeing that message, Johnny. Oh, boy. No, Jay, Elder Thomas, anything for what we're talking about tonight? Because I mean, you let Larry Jordan take all the elder role tonight. I know you got some ideas in there, right? Uh-oh.
Elder Thomas busy doing something.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might know what he's busy doing. He said he wasn't feeling good. Let's keep him in our prayers.
Yes. All right. Brother Eves, you there? Jay?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening as well. You know me, I'm just a silent assassin, just listening, taking heed to everything. But Travis' story is basically my story that's going on for me right now. So I wholeheartedly understand him down to the T. So,
Brother Eves, anything you want to share?
No, I'm just listening, you know, this whole conversation, you know, that it led into the you know, about what Obama did and didn't do was really insightful. You know, listen to everybody talk about that. But I'm just listening right now, you know. I'm taking in the information and, you know, learning everybody's different opinions and things like that.
Cool. Well, we're glad to have you again.
You know what it is, Gaspar? I think they're waiting for our Wednesday night group because it's more intimate and they're allowed to share. It's a little bit more private. Because right now, what they should be doing is liking and sharing this video so that everyone else can partake into the fatherhood talks and understand what goes on within our Tuesday night meeting. So that Wednesday night we can get a little bit more intimate, a little bit more involved, and we talk a little bit in depth about what's going on.
Listen. I don't know if you guys know, but we've had some phenomenal Wednesday nights. And when I say phenomenal, we talking about 21, 24 people on there, and the majority of the people getting fully engaged in that. That's a big conversation.
Yeah,
it's a big conversation. But I think that just goes to show that it's strong. And I'm going to tell you, I'm doing some recruiting right now. We might be getting some people from up north from some of this training I've been doing in Maryland, because they don't have a program where they're at that's close enough to go to. So they might be coming down to join us on Wednesday night. So we're pushing. And I think that Gene is absolutely right. At this moment, share as much as possible, because at some point we're at. I mean, again, I think next we already passed our anniversary. I think we already passed our anniversary when we came on. It's coming up March. Yeah, March. I think it's coming up in March. And so in March, we will be, you know, like a full grown up at that point. So we'll definitely be able to, you know, and we have a lot of content that, listen, when you're talking to people, our people talking, I'm talking to people out there, we're talking to people and they're saying, hey man, I don't know, just refer them. And I'm saying this is probably one of the most unique, and I've heard people say this, suggest this to me, what we have is probably one of the most unique content that's out right now. And it's because it's not unique, it's just regular everyday fathers talking about topics, you know, but it doesn't have the scandalous like Lionel and Johnny a knot at each other's neck, pulling up tapes of what Johnny did at the courthouse with Lionel, showing pictures of Lionel at the nightclub. You know, that we don't have it because that's not our topic. Our topic is to talk about as men and as fathers, you know, topics that come. And the other issue is this is not like the barbershop. We're not in it, you know, you can be very clear. We know the NFL playoffs is going on presently right now, but you don't hear any of those things come into this unless I use maybe a metaphor for a sports thing, because that is a very far away from what as fathers sometimes we really should be talking about. That's entertainment, you know, that's an entertainment. That's not our family life. And when we start getting away from those things. So I want to thank everybody for watching, for joining, for the dads who come every day. Also, I tell you guys, tentatively start looking to hold the afternoon, because I have a presentation I'm going to be making. I really want many of you guys to see it sometime in February, probably February 22. I'm going to tell you 2 days, February 24th and 27th. I think that's a Monday, a Friday, and a Monday, 1 o'clock. I'll be sending out a later reference about it, but definitely I want you guys to definitely be able to come and see that presentation I'm going to do, because you're in it. So I think that. Huh?
The last one you did, I think Gasper was there. I was on there. It was a very good program. You remember Gasper? The one on Saturday, Gasper, remember that one? The Saturday morning?
I was there too myself.
Oh no, this is gonna be a little bit different. This is gonna be exclusive about us. So I just want you to. So it's exclusive about this group of people right here and what we're doing and what we've been doing for the last. At least I would say what has happened since 2013. Oh. And Elder Thomas probably more than anything. As Elder Thomas was there when I walked in the door to make the presentation at Fatherhood Mentorship about domestic violence. And that's how Rohan got here, because Rohan had came to, these are the stories. Rohan had came to Women in Distress trying to get information. And I said, why don't you come over to the program that we're having over here at Fatherhood? And then there you go. This is the trickle down effect. So history of how we got here and where we're going from there. With that being said, gentlemen, this was a great conversation tonight. I definitely can't wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow's topic, in reference to what we were talking about here, is improving our communication skills. See how these 24/7 dad curriculum
intertwined
go with our topics, and that's the kind of back work that working. So tomorrow we'll bring that, and we'll have that group tomorrow. Again, I think Gene sold it the best. Like, share, subscribe, share with people. The more people that see this, we're not, here's the great part I'm always saying. We're not saying drop on the Cash App, the PayPal. We're not saying any of that. We're just saying, hey, look at this stuff because it may help.
Yeah.
We're almost like that, I know people don't win, but you remember when, I don't know how many of you guys can remember this, but they would give you out that little book when I was a younger kid, and maybe you guys were mostly people my age group. It was these little religious books that give them out, and it's like about like this size, like a square size. It was like a little book and had,
Track. The track.
That's a track. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
And it had like little stories in them. When I was young, I used to love them jokers. I mean, they had the little stories. I would read them. And not only were they, they had the biblical part of it, but it was really the ethical part of what it means to be a human being in a society that made it really, really good. Well, it wasn't very diverse though. It was only little white guys in the track. But
I'm really glad that I actually met somebody that actually read them things.
Oh, I used to read them all the time. I read them religiously because it was like a little boy. And guess what? It was easy reading. They had very good illustrations of pictures to kind of show you what that was. And so when I think about things like that, I think about, hey, that's exactly the same way we should do fatherhood manuals. Personal little fatherhood tracking manual. But those are the kind of things you look at, what you should do when you go to court. And they have them sit down, nice.
Well, Ron, the new tracks is TikTok. So you can do the same thing. You can convey that same message. I mean, the same methodology, but just in a more digital way through TikTok. That's exactly how TikTok actually works in a more modern.
Right. It's going to disappear, by the way. TikTok is on its way out. Yeah,
it's on its way out.
Just thought I'd say that to you guys, so you guys know.
Well, now listen. Someone had a major concern. I heard a message today, and I think it was a father saying the concern that what are their children going to do when it does go away, and someone was saying that we need to be getting prepared for when these things go away, so we can be the safety net underneath our children and our friends and families. Because
when you say it don't go away, what do you mean?
Disappear. Banned.
Oh yeah, but that'd be something else. Listen, they're gonna be the next social media tool.
Remember the first one 20 years ago.
Correct. What was it? What we had back then? MySpace. We had MySpace.
Black people made.
Yeah, MySpace. Yeah.
No. It was called Black Planet.
Black Planet. There you go. So you see, and then you got to Facebook, and that was the best thing. And then they created Instagram. So the young people said Facebook for the old people. They don't even go to Facebook no more. And then Instagram wasn't even enough for the kids. They got the fake Instagram, the behind the scenes Instagram, where they do their real dirt that they don't let their parents see on the regular Instagram. And then you thought, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, TikTok might be out, but it's gonna be something that's gonna come right back in behind it. We're at a point now, y'all, that our kids 4 or 5 years old know how to operate a computer and a cell phone before they even know how to read. Half of them could find if you hand them the phone, they will find what's that, Coco Melon and all them other things on YouTube and whatever they want to see, and they don't even know how to read. So we're a point where there's not really much we can do about what technology is going to do. We just got to embrace it. And even if TikTok is banned, believe me, Rohan, they're going to find Nick Knock or Black Block or whatever. They're going to find something else to come in its place, because there is too much of a demand for it. The ability to market your product yourself and find an immediate audience is too great for them to not, to let it just go. So if TikTok get banned, what's the boy name for Facebook? He gonna come up with something for the young people to have like that. Since TikTok isn't owned by him, he owns Facebook. The guy who owns, what's his name? Mark Wahlberg. Mark
Zuckerberg.
There you go. That dude, that Berg dude. He owned Facebook and Instagram. So they don't own TikTok though. So if TikTok is bad, I'm sure he's gonna come up with something to replace it in America.
They're already working on the metaverse.
See, a metaverse, that kind of thing right there. So with that being said, it's 8:34. Ryan, you ready to do your chat?
Hey, that is it, guys. I think we are ready. Guys, if you repeat after me, I am.
I am.
I said I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of
honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I say I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I say that I am.
I am.
I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
Championship fathers.
Championship fathers.
LJ still got the title, huh?
This week. It might go next week now. It might go to somebody else next week.
Oh gosh.
Remember
It's
that
great
when
to
you
see
see
y'all.
us flexing, is not show our muscles, is to hold our kids up on our arms. And if you seen the pin haul from last week, put our kids up on our and hold our families on our back like Atlas. We'll so we'll see you all here again next Tuesday. And if fathers, if you're ready, come on down tomorrow night. We'll be here. We'll be talking about improving your communication skills in reference to what we talked about tonight, the right way to do the wrong thing.
All right. Gentlemen,
All right.
y'all have a great evening. It's
All
great
right.
seeing y'all.
Gentlemen.
Have a good night.